What's up, guys? How y'all doing? I've returned once again for yet another video, and unfortunately, this is another sad video, another tribute that I feel like I have to do. I'm gonna put up my banner down here. Yep, we lost another one, folks. Art Eckman, the major voice of Supercross, unfortunately died yesterday. I only found this out last night. I didn't want to believe it, but unfortunately, it's true. And I'll tell you this, unfortunately, I never had the chance to meet Art Eckman at all. But let me tell you, as someone who has followed the sport since 1997, Art Eckman was a big part of my childhood for the good of 5.5 years, to say the least. But I'll tell you this, what that man did for calling Supercross races just could not be topped by anybody today. I mean, I admit I've had my fair share of favorites, but nobody even rivals or tops how lively and energetic Art Eckman really was. I mean, you know, hearing him call the races with David Bailey when I was growing up, that was the dream team. Davey Coombs became that third edition, and although I do admit I like Davey Coombs as a pit reporter, part of me feels like I just liked Marty Reed one notch better, because Marty Reed had that kind of spunk where you really just fed off that energy. It's like, you see this guy who's so lively, and I thought Marty Reed was probably just as lively a pit reporter as Davey Coombs was. I mean, Davey Coombs was really, really down to earth and really educated on the sport. Kind of like what we're seeing Jason Weigandt call the motocross races since 2009. Art Eckman was that one guy with that bar to bar, with that saying bar to bar. You just couldn't top that, really. But just the way that he talked, Art Eckman, was so professional. I mean, that guy was the epitome of excitement and if you want a good play-by-play announcer, Art Eckman is that guy. I mean, as a lot of you know, Orlando 97 was my first race. I never really knew much about Art Eckman as a pit reporter. And the only time in my tenure that I ever got to see Art Eckman as the pit reporter was the 1998 Dallas Supercross, where Jeremy McGrath wrapped up his 5th title in 1998. I got so used to seeing Art Eckman in the booth that just became like gospel, I mean, nobody can ever top him. I mean, I admit I've liked my fair share of guys. I mean, I thought Todd Harris was pretty good. In fact, I thought Todd Harris was really good, just not as good as Art Eckman. But Ralph Sheheen, I thought, did a decent job. And don't get me wrong, folks, but I really like Leigh Diffey as an announcer. I mean, you can say what you want, but Leigh Diffey is one of my personal favorites. But Jason Weigandt is probably the guy who comes the closest to even matching what Art Eckman does. Not going to lie to you. I mean, when Todd Harris first called the races, I was in high school. And, Todd Harris, he called the Supercross races for 3 of my high school years, I should say. And then he came back in 2021. And it's just, It's just really shocking. And the fact that Art Eckman was still the last that I remember reading of Art Eckman was a number of years ago on Racer X, that he was still looking for work, and he was in his 70s. So I think it was 9 years ago that I remember reading that Art Eckman was still looking for work. I'm thinking to myself, really? Because really, what that guy did, he never got worse. He only got better. And I still think that he should have been calling the races. I had to admit, I was looking forward to when he was supposed to call the Red Bull Straight Rhythm in 2018 or 2017 or 18 or 19. And it never happened. I mean, as good as we see guys like Jason Weigandt and Daniel Blair these days, Art Eckman just had this energy that you just fed off of. And this energy and excitement that you just couldn't help but feed off of. And, but you just never know. I mean, I was one of those guys who really grew up. I was in the generation of watching Art in the booth and hearing his energy. Man, that's a total gut punch right there. So anyway, guys, that's all. So see y'all soon.